Wow. Hi guys. So today I actually sprayed some fucking spray here to get rid of the flies, but I think they're immune. So we'll see what happens if I get really fucking mad and you have a fly crawling over the camera. It's incredible. I hope they die. I really do. So we're gonna talk about the om601, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe, something like that. I have not prepared as usual, but I have something I'm thinking about, because I see posts. That's what I do, and I want to respond to those posts. Like one post is, it's impossible to have low down torque in the 606 because of the block is too weak, and like there is like petrol sized bearings and not diesel appropriate shit and whatnot. But now, all you fucking 648 wankers, you have to think about that the CDI cranks fit the 60456. So they do share bearings, right? So, I mean, it's not that a 605 and 6 turbo block is weak. Not at all. It's just a fucking small engine. And not small in size, because a 606 is 76 centimeters long, but it's very, very long. And a 605 is more or less the same size as a 6-cylinder BMW engine. But it is a small engine, It's short stroke, and it's quite a small bore. It's 87 millimeters, and it's only 3 liters. If you compare that to Cummins that are like 5.9 and 6.7 and so on, it's a massive difference. Of course, the BMW M57 is also a 3 liter with 99.9 millimeter stroke or something like that. So it's not a super long stroke engine. What we have in the 3.5 liter 606, 92.4 or something. I mean, the difference is not massive. I don't remember from memory the bore of the M57, but it's not mega tiny. It's smaller, of course, but it's not that it's not that the Mercedes engine is weaker in its construction, and I think they're fucking dying. I'm really happy now. I will have to buy more spray. Fuck yeah, because this is... Yeah, okay, so let's talk about engines and not killing fucking moscas. Flies in the language we all know. So, the 606, 604, 605, 606, and even 601 and 2 and 3 they are good engines, and they're not weak in their construction. We just have to agree on that. Then if you use your water meth kit and nitrous oxide shit and whatnot, shit gonna break. But, you American guys that see this, for you, using NOS and shit like that, it's normal, because the number on the dyno is everything. The 2,500 horsepower Cummins is everything for a couple of seconds. But all motor, they are not so impressive. And in Europe, we look at this a little bit different. For us, it's motor. We don't care about the maximum power, we want as much power as we can, all motor. We don't want the nitrous oxide or other additives, because when the additive is finished, we don't have any power. So the culture in automotive, in our automotive world, is different in that perspective. So, and I think that's not the reason, of course, because Mercedes never built these engines to do 600 horsepower, but it's like you have really, really strong shit on the other side of the pond, and they can take the beating of the NOS. But in Europe, we tend to build things that are smaller, you know. We have very good examples of that, you know, like 2.2 liter 5-cylinder Audis in the 80s. And in America, you had 6-liter V8s and running the same power, more or less. So it's like we always done things not weaker, but smaller. And yeah, that's just how it is. So this is a European engine. If you're going to NOS it or water methanol it or whatever you're going to do, you will have problems. These engines are made for all motor. You put some diesel in it and you add some boost, and that's it. And every time you press the throttle, the car goes forward. That's about it, you know. But the differences between the blocks then, because we have never discussed that. The NA engines, I don't really know about the 601, 2, and 3 in the turbo versions, if the block are different than the 456. Or 4 was never a turbo, as you know, about the 5 and 6. However, the 605 and 606, they have a different block. The turbo ones has a different block than the NA engines, and the 604 is only NA, so that has the weaker block, of course. I know that the 601, 2, and 3 that are not turbo, they don't have the oil squirters, and that's a problem really. So, I mean, 6456, you can use any engine and boost it, and if you don't want to boost it as it is, you can buy a couple of scrap heap engines and rob them from their, you know, pistons and rods, and you build yourself a turbo engine from your NA block, and that's gonna work really, really good for you. But you already have the oil squirters in those engines. In the 601, 2, and 3, you don't have that, so that's a problem for you American guys that are going over for the 60, like 2 and 3, more or less. You need a turbo engine from the beginning to make some reliable power. I mean, 200 and 250 horsepower any day in a NA block. You know, it doesn't really matter with oil squirters, but if you're chasing a little bit of power, it's a really good feature to have. Other differences then, the 290 TDT engine, the direct injected VE pump E-class engine. That block has quite a few differences and is not impossible to use. We have used it in a 2.9605 build, but it requires some machining because the block is made in a little bit different way. Also, oil squirters is really fun topic, no, but it's interesting maybe for you to know that the NA engines and the turbo engines in the 605 and 606 has different oil squirters. So they are shaped in a different way because the turbo engine has a cavity in the pistons and the oil squirter goes inside a hole in the piston, underneath the piston, and squirts oil in this cavity. So therefore the oil squirters are different in the turbo engines. It really doesn't matter that much, but if you're gonna take your NA block and you're gonna build a turbo engine with some spare eBay parts, it is really good to order some oil squirters from your Mercedes dealer and put the correct oil squirters in, because then your block will be as a turbo block. The block structure itself is a little bit weaker, but you know, with your 400 horsepower you will never notice that. Another thing that is interesting is my good friend from Australia that know it all, and he really does. He really fucking know everything. and sometimes it's like, fuck. So this is for you, man. This girdle thing, a lot of people buy a main cap girdle, or what the fuck we're gonna call it, for your engine, and I've sold plenty of them for 606 and M104, but my Australian friend, he says that there's a difference if you only have like a block sump plate, or I don't know how you express yourself really, but like a sump plate, what we call a girdle, or a proper girdle that is a machined billet piece that includes the caps for the main caps, so it's a totally integrated part. And yes, of course you're right. You're always fucking right. So the proper girdle is of course a better and stronger option. But, and there's always a fucking but, the sump plate girdle version is doing its job if installed properly. If installed properly. It needs to be, everything needs to be bolted in as one piece. And I think there is where different manufacturers do it, right or wrong. So I'm no fucking world champion, but I tend to do things with some, kind of precision. So the girdles I sold, or we made distanser in fucking Swedish. Spacers in English. We did spacers between the main caps and girdle, and we did this fucking, it's so fucking overkill, but we did it because I like to have shit exact. So this fucking machine, and you told me on the YouTube what the fuck the name was. Yeah, it doesn't matter. We put all these fucking spacers for one girdle on a magnetic table, and we machined all at the same time. So they were, within way less than hundreds of a millimeter of each other, because everything needs to be tight as fuck. And of course, long studs for the main caps, and then a nut. So you first torqued your main caps, but the stud kept on going, So you could put your spacer there, and then you can put your main girdle, and then you torque the girdle to another like 100 Newton or what the fuck it was, So it actually becomes one piece and not several pieces. I've seen a lot of different solutions, but when you torque a lot of bolts down, shit will bend and twist and twerk on you. So if it's not 100%, it will be so, and sometimes people have more problem after installing shit than they would have not installing that. If you put a 10-15 millimeter big fucking piece of steel on your engine, and you torque it with, I don't know, 20 fucking bolts, and that is a little bit off, then you're gonna twist your entire fucking block, and then you're gonna have a lot of problems. It's the exactly same thing when people over talking the head, and there's a reason why you use a fucking stress plate when you hone or bore your block, because shit will distort when you torque shit down. That's just how it works. But I think we know a little bit about the 60456 engines now. Oil squirters, for example, pistons that are different and whatnot. And that I think a plate that is installed properly underneath your engine is a girdle, and you don't really need a billet caps. The one-piece billet shit with including the caps. And I mean, it's overkill. It's really, really fucking good, but the price tag is, accordingly. So, we're running to 16 minutes, and I wish you all the best, and we'll see you in fucking 3 days. Bye bye.